Have you ever avoided a conversation with an employee about their performance because you're worried about the drama? Maybe you worried that the employee would get defensive or that it would ruin team morale if they got upset, or maybe you just didn't feel like you had the time or energy to deal with it. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Many business owners and leaders hesitate to address underperformance, but avoiding the problem only makes it worse. So in this episode, I'll show you how to tackle performance issues head on without the stress, the awkwardness, or the frustration. We're going to cover the biggest mistakes that make underperformance worse. I'll give you a simple framework for giving feedback without conflict, and I'll show you how to set expectations clearly so that employees actually improve. Welcome to De-Stress Your Business, the podcast where we show you how to get incredible results in your business without constant stress. I'm Alexis Kingsbury, a serial entrepreneur and founder at AirManual. Now, in this episode, I'm going to start off by talking about why most leaders avoid performance conversations and why that often backfires. Because let's be honest, most of us don't want to have tough conversations. We do worry about how the employee will react. We don't want to seem like we're attacking them, and we definitely don't want to make things awkward afterwards. So we put it off. But the problem is that avoidance makes everything worse. The longer you wait to address underperformance, the more frustrated you become, which makes the eventual conversation even more tense. But also the employee keeps repeating mistakes perhaps because they don't even know that they're a problem. And the team starts to notice, losing trust in your leadership, and might even result in them leaving, meaning you're depending on your poorest performers. Now, the reality is most employees want to do a great job for you. And so if they're not performing well, it's often because they don't understand the expectations, or they haven't received clear guidance, or they haven't received feedback on their performance to help them understand something needs change and what that is. So before jumping into that conversation, first ask yourself, have you made your expectations 100% clear? If not, start there. Start by having a conversation about your performance expectations. You can even start by asking them what's their understanding of what's important in their role and so on. It can be really illuminating for you to see that actually they thought other things were more important than you thought that they were, and getting aligned on that can often result in improving the performance. Now, let's say that actually you feel like, no, I've given them guidance, they've had that clarity and so on. How do you then give feedback without making it awkward or confrontational? The key is to use a really simple, structured approach that keeps the conversation calm, productive, and focused on solutions. So we're going to do this as a simple 3-step framework. So the first step is to be really specific about the issue, not vague feedback. Most feedback fails because it's too vague. So instead of saying, you need to be more reliable or you're not performing well, instead give specifics. For example, you missed 3 deadlines last month for XYZ, and I didn't receive a heads up from you before those delays. Can we talk about what happened there? When you give specific feedback, you make it clear what the problem is without it being personal or emotional. It's not subjective. You're stating specific facts about things that you've observed and asking them to talk about what happened and so on. It might be that there were perfectly good reasons for that. They're outside of their control. That's useful for you to understand before you shoot yourself in the foot by diving in and attacking them. So instead, giving them an opportunity to respond to it. But you need to start off by giving really specific feedback. The second step is focus on the impact, not just the mistake. So once you've outlined the issue, explain why it matters. So for example, you might say, when deadlines are missed like that, it affects the whole team and puts pressure on others to catch up, which negatively impacts one of our core values around enjoying the journey. And so by expressing the impact it has on clients, on other team members, on the business, as you as a leader, makes it easier for them to see, why does it matter? Why is it important that we hit these deadlines? I only missed it by a minute. Oh, well, actually, even though you missed it as by a minute, it means that this happens, I then had to check this and so on. By being clear about the impact, you help them understand why it's not just about them, it's about the team, it's about the business, it's about the customers. Third step is set clear expectations for improvement. So the conversation should end with a clear action plan. What is it that needs to change? How will you measure progress? What support do they need to succeed? So, for example, moving forward, I need you to communicate proactively if a deadline might be missed at least 48 hours in advance. Does that sound reasonable? And that removes the ambiguity and sets them up for success and allows you to have a real conversation about what expectations are realistic and feel appropriate. It might be that you even agree that actually that isn't reasonable, and so instead we need to get better aligned in expectations and what can be achieved, so that you're then happier with the level of performance that they deliver, but they're able to actually live up to what you need. Now, if you go through that three-step process of being really clear about here's the issue and specifics, here's the impact it has, and here's what I need and expect and what we need to, the level that needs, and how we're going to get to that improvement level. If they then resist or make excuses, they push back, perhaps they say, oh, I didn't know what was expected, or, oh, but other people do exactly the same thing, or I'm doing my best, but you're just being unfair, then here's how to handle that without getting into argument. The first thing is stay calm. Acknowledge their perspective. Instead of reacting emotionally, say, I understand, I appreciate you sharing that. Let's figure out how can we improve this moving forward. So instead, you're keeping the conversation solution focused rather than going on the defensive. Then reiterate your expectation without apologizing it. Don't let excuses derail the conversation. Just simply restate the expectation. So, for example, you might say, regardless of past expectations and what other team members are doing, moving forward, I need proactive communication on where we're at versus deadlines. Does that make sense? Being firm but fair is key. And of course, if they're right that you haven't set those expectations in the past or with other team members, that's fine. Restate the expectation and then go tackle that, go have those conversations. But what's important in that conversation is that they're clear on the level of performance that you expect and that they feel that that's reasonable and that you've had a conversation to make sure that they know how to deliver it. And finally, end with a clear next step. So if they have pushed back, you've been calm, you've restated your expectation, you then, before wrapping up, just confirm next steps. So for example, you might say, let's check in next week just to see how this is going. And I'm here to support you. I want to see you succeed. So let me know if there's anything else that I can provide you in the meantime. By doing that, you're reinforcing accountability in them without making it feel like a punishment. You're focused on mutual success of achieving the performance level and that you've offered to provide any additional support that they need. Okay, so if you've been avoiding performance conversations so far, perhaps because you don't want that conflict, hopefully now you feel like you know how to handle them without the stress, without the awkwardness. Be specific about the issue, explain why it matters, set clear expectations for the improvement. And if they push back, stay calm, reiterate the expectation, and then focus on solutions and next steps. Look, the reality is most employees don't want to fail. They don't want to upset you. They want to get pats on the back for the amazing work that they're doing, but they need clear expectations. They need guidance. They need constructive feedback and the opportunity to improve. They will attempt to delight you if you can create the space and give them guidance to do that. Most managers, most leaders hold back from having regular one-to-ones with their staff, from having these difficult conversations, and so they tolerate poor performance much too long. It's incredibly stressful for them. It's incredibly stressful for the rest of the team. Don't tolerate that in your organization. So I hope you found that useful in this episode. In the next episode, I'm going to tackle the hardest part. What if they just aren't the right fit? I'll walk through how to know for sure that it's time to let someone go and that you've ticked all the boxes, and how to make sure that you're handling terminations professionally and legally, but also how to protect team morale when someone leaves, and the exact steps to go through to extract them from the organization as comfortably as you can, albeit that it's never comfortable. So if you've ever struggled with that and think that that might be on the cards for you in the future, or that your leaders, managers, etc., don't miss that. Make sure that you subscribe to this podcast so that you can get notified when that episode's available. But also, in the meantime, if you want a structured playbook to help you and your organization with performance management, including a series of best practice processes that you can use to implement improved performance management, including performance reviews. So we've got like detailed checklists for how to do a performance review from a manager's perspective, how to do a self-assessment that's then used by the manager as part of the performance review form, how to do one-to-ones better, like regular weekly, fortnightly, monthly one-to-ones to help that individual continuously improve and provide feedback where you need to, but also a process of exactly the steps to go through to manage unsatisfactory employee performance, including giving a written warning and making final termination if that's appropriate. So you can get all of that in a playbook. Just go to airmanual.co/resources and look for a playbook called Resolving Unsatisfactory Employee Performance. Or if you can't find it, or if you want something else and you want some help with any of this, please do reach out to my team, or you can email me, alexis.kingsbury@airmanual.co. But also, if you found this episode useful, please do share it online or go to Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review with a comment, even if it's just one word. We read them all and really appreciate it. It makes a big difference to what we can do in this podcast. But otherwise, until next time, have fun.